Hey everyone, Dave here. The end has finally come, and no, I'm not just talking about Agent Carter. Okay. I'm also talking about the Season 3 finale for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was a two-parter, expanding over 2 hours, or an hour and a half without the commercials. And so, instead of doing two separate reviews, I'm just going to tackle the whole giant thing in one fell swoop, because honestly, I feel like I could. I feel like not too much happened. Enough action happened, enough intensity, enough things were drawn out for dramatic effect. But at the same time, I feel like I can summarize and give my overall opinions within the same amount of time as a regular review, even though the finale was a two-part or 2 hour event. So with that being said, let's go ahead and tackle this motherfucker. So basically, we had two episodes. One was called Absolution, and the other one was called Ascension. And this was not only the conclusion for the fallen agent storyline of Daisy being taken over by Hive, and then her trying to find redemption in this entire thing. Which, I'm sorry, but it was one of the weaker parts during the first half of this finale, where she's in her cell and she's talking to Coulson, she's talking to Gemma, and she's doing this whole "I deserve to be here, I feel bad about myself" type thing that just didn't feel earned for the character. There wasn't enough in the character for me to actually feel sorry for her. I just rather wish she had shut up and at least try to make some good. Just like May would even tell her later on, like, hey, try to balance the scales from here on out. And instead, what does she do? Much like a drug addict, the first chance that she gets, she says, "Okay, take me to Hive." But fortunately, through Lash's actions in the previous episode, she was not given that opportunity, and that kind of was able to like snap her out of it and try to confront Hive head on, 1-to-1. But that happens in the latter half of the episode. Let me just talk about the first half that I thought was pretty good. The team, Coulson and his team, go into the island where Hive is holding his warhead that he's going to disperse this inhuman pathogen. The warhead unfortunately escapes with Hellfire and Guerra, but at least Coulson and his team are able to not only capture some of the materials that Hive was having in that base, but Hive himself. And so this is a huge victory. This is a huge thing for the team. But being that it's a TV show, we all know better. And of course, Hive has a trick up his sleeve, just like Coulson did, literally. And Absolution turns out to be the location that they were stationed in, and that was a code name for the little operation to kind of strike S.H.I.E.L.D. from within. And from that point on, through the gas that comes out of that crate, we pretty much have like an I Am Legend type of thing going on within the Marvel Universe, or at least within the S.H.I.E.L.D. base here, where the team is kind of holed up in their own base without any power, without any electricity, while trying to fight off these, as they call them, these primitives, these inhuman primitives that look like zombies, pretty much, that look like very deformed I Am Legend type of zombies. And of course, they went the further step of adapting that whole zombie nature by having them being able to see in infrared, so when they crank up the heat, they can become invisible, and they kind of have like a Walking Dead type of thing going on, where like in the Walking Dead show in the comics, they would dress up with their guts, and if they do that, they're invisible to the zombies. They kind of use the same mechanic here in S.H.I.E.L.D., but I liked it because of how compelling and charismatic the team was whenever they figured out, like, oh my god, especially with Radcliffe in the mix, who also gets taken in after the infiltration in the base. But however, Hive escapes, and prior to this, the Hive has been a good villain, but the one scene that I did think was somewhat of a highlight within this first half of the episode was the scene where he falls into the trap that Mac and Fitz were devising within that hallway back in the base on the island, where he got zapped and all of his memories get jumbled. It was cool because not only is this a neat little weakness for Hive that we never seen before, because up until this point he's kind of like this godlike presence, so to see his memories be jumbled all over the place like that was rather an interesting little thing to take away from this little trap that Fitz and Mac devised. But on top of that, at least me personally, I saw that as a very clever way to mask somewhat of a montage for actor Brett Dalton. And if you know how this episode ends, you know why this little quote-unquote montage of Brett Dalton as both Ward and Hive kind of worked in his favor to kind of give the actor a proper send-off, because he's been on the show since day one, and through the entire story arc that he has gone through with his family, his brother, I'm blanking on his name, but Bill Paxton's character who brings him in and kind of inducts him into the ranks of Hydra, and his early days of being on the team with Sky. In fact, we saw little flashes of him having conversations with Daisy as Sky back in season 1, and so I think that it was a cool and clever way to mask a little bit of one of those in memoriam montages whenever a character gets killed, like on a soap opera or whatever, and they show that montage of their time on the show because that actor's not going to be on the show no more unless there's like a flashback or whatever. To me, I saw that as a very clever way of doing that. So from that point on, however, he gets taken back to the base. He breaks out through the hands of those primitives that turn out to be Shield operatives, which I also found kind of intimidating when Radcliffe reveals that they can also retain some of their previous motor skills. So they're able to use guns, they're able to use other stuff. So that was actually rather scary, but also kind of cool. And so Hive escapes, and he figures out that he can use the Zephyr as a way to detonate this nuclear well, not nuclear, but this massive warhead type of attack. And it is through this process that we finally say goodbye to Guerra, who I think could have used at least one more action scene before his demise, but that's just me. At least he was taken out in a somewhat cool way with Fitz disguising that gun invisibly. I thought it really did catch me off by surprise, where he all of a sudden went, what? I was like, ooh, that was the way to go, Fitz. So this all leads to a culminating scene up in the stratosphere where Coulson, taking the Quinjet along with his team, go to the Zephyr and go inside of it and try to neutralize this entire attack. And here, some interesting things happen. I mean, some scuffles, some fights with the primitives happen. They're in the vents or whatever. But there's some highlights that I need to point out, otherwise this review is going to be a little bit too long. But there's things that need to be talked about. First of all, Coulson hops on to the Zephyr and encounters Hive, who we finally see in his true form for the very first time, and it was awesome. I was expecting him to look cheap because the TV budgets are not normally favorable towards visual effects. But Hive looked pretty fucking cool. He really did. When he appeared and he approached Coulson, he looked legit. He looked like something that... He did remind me a little bit of Davy Jones from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. But I mean that in a good way, because Davy Jones in those movies is a rather technical achievement when it comes to visual effects. I think the second movie won Best Visual Effects at the Oscars. The quality for that type of effect on Hive, in my opinion, was almost on par. He looked great. The design, as well as the actual quality of the visual effects, he looked like he was there with Coulson, and he looked like a very intimidating presence, which is why I was so disappointed that he was only on screen in that form for like less than 5 minutes before turning back into Ward, and not even towards his final moments did he turn back into Hive's true form for at least one last look before we say goodbye to him. But I guess Brett Dalton, he's getting paid the big bucks, so I guess they have to squeeze as much screen time out of him as possible. But his encounter with Coulson was awesome, and Coulson, always the trickster with the hologram, and of course always with the jokes. Help me, Obi-Wan. That part cracked me up for like a good minute. But while he was distracted, Coulson's team, however, goes inside, neutralizes Hellfire, and managed to take Daisy as well as reunite with May and Fitz. But in the process, Lincoln gets hurt. And here they're having their little romance type thing that, again, I didn't really grasp onto, mainly because Lincoln hasn't been that big of a character for me to care about that much. And this is what leads me to the ending, because up until this point I thought that the finale was great, filled with an awful lot of great action, great tense moments, nice little details here and there that I think were very cool for some of the mythology of these characters, some of the powers that they could use. I can't remember specifically, but ever so often, like for example, Yo-Yo, she's part of this whole operation, and she manages to save Mac by stopping bullets getting shot up by one of the primitives that was able to remember how to use guns. She takes a bullet in the gut, but she bleeds super fast because of how fast her metabolism is. That allows her to go fast as an inhuman. So obviously all of her parts of her anatomy are going to work fast, including blood pumping. So if she gets shot in an artery, that shit's going to bleed out almost instantly. And I love that they pay attention to things like that. And that would happen throughout the finale. And I was glad of that. So up until this point, the finale was great. Until the ending. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to say right now, didn't like the ending. I thought it was disappointing. I just didn't like it. It didn't set well with me because, first off, they promised us a big death. The death was not that big in my opinion because guess who gets the boot? It is Lincoln. Lincoln is the one who decides to switch places with Sky, who prior to her trying to take responsibility for being the one to take the Quinjet up there and blow it up herself, the whole team was playing hot potato with this crucifix that I was like, okay, come on, guys. Somebody's putting it in their pocket. I'm like, okay, maybe it's them, maybe it's them, maybe it's Mac, maybe it's Fitz. Oh, God. And now all of them are wearing the freaking jacket. That's where I'm like, okay, I give up. But it really did look like it was going to be Daisy. And it would have been alright for it to be Daisy because Lincoln was saying don't try to atone for her sins, but I think she should have atoned for her sins. I think she should have taken the very heroic responsibility of sacrificing her life, and this would have really brought her arc in full circle. But it's Lincoln, the guy that the writers didn't know what to do with, so they're like, oh, just kill him off. At least that's what I took away with it. I mean, there's interviews saying that, oh, we were thinking of something else, but to me, it just felt like they didn't know what to do with the character, so they're like, okay, let's have him be the one that gets killed. And now he's gone. And I gotta be honest, Sky was in tears. Coulson was like, oh no, we lost one. I didn't feel almost anything during that entire scene when they're talking on the thing, Captain America First Avenger style. Where I'm just like, okay, bye Lincoln. In fact, I'm feeling more for the fact that we're not going to see Brett Dalton anymore because he is also on the Quinjet as Hive, and he blows up with him. And I love that the two, even though they're mortal enemies, they're like, we're going to die, so let's just chill here, floating out of space, ground control to Major Tom style, and let's just look at the Earth, just looking all beautifully. And they do have kind of like an inhuman to inhuman bonding moment that I really did appreciate. It is during this moment, however, that I wish that Hive would have removed his ward face and shown his true form to Lincoln one last time before finally blowing up. But again, this also served as a way to send out Brett Dalton, who's no longer now part of the show, because I really liked him as an actor. He did great job as Ward, great job as Hive, because he felt like a different character, and I truly appreciate his time in the show. But to be honest, I'm probably gonna end up missing him more than I am Lincoln here, because I think they killed off the wrong person. And then it gets worse. We cut back to ground control. Sky's in tears. She's broken. The team has been shaken, and Simmons, shedding tears, asks Coulson, "What now?" Boom! 6 months later. Really? Out of nowhere, time jump. And what happens in this time jump? Daisy, now formally and appropriately, finally known as Quake, her comic book counterpart, has gone rogue, looking like an Infamous character from the Infamous video games, not only because of the powers, but because of her freaking wig and everything. She's going around pulling the Robin Hood thing of helping people that are in need, but at the same time doing it outside of the law, outside of S.H.I.E.L.D. jurisdiction, and also causing damage in the process, like she's destroying highways and stuff like that. And Coulson is out there trying to get her back. Really? This entire thing just felt off to me 100%. The only way that they can possibly redeem it is if maybe season 4 starts with the moments immediately after the after the Quinjet blew up, with the warhead in it, and then we see the build up to Sky becoming that rogue inhuman known as Quake. But I don't think they're going to do that, especially because of the ending stinger where we have Radcliffe turn on an AI, a robotic body of some kind. And the reason why I say this is because this scene with the dialogue implicates that months have indeed passed. He has gone through all his court hearings of not going to jail as being part of Hive's little posse. And also, it looks like he developed some kind of workman-like relationship with both Fitz and Simmons. So this scene, combined with the 6 months later epilogue, feels like it's the show's way of saying, yeah, we're sticking with the 6 months later storyline. We're not going to jump back to see the build-up to that. And if that's the case, then I don't know. This just feels really off. Maybe it'll feel a little bit different when season 4 kicks off in the fall, but for now, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous because of how the finale ended. Agent Carter getting canceled, the Most Wanted spin-off not going to series even after a pilot got filmed, which means that those two characters, Bobby and Hunter, are gone unless they find a way to write them back into season 4. And on top of that, said season 4 is being pushed to 10 o'clock at night instead of 9 o'clock when it comes back in the fall, which is somewhat of a red flag. All these things combined has me a little bit worried for one of my favorite shows on TV. More so than some of the other ones that people are raving about. So with that being said, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had a really great Season 3 finale that was sadly marred, personally, by a really disappointing ending. So for that, I give the Season 3 finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the two episodes combined, a high 8 out of 10. Because enough of it was great. The majority of it was great, filled with an awful lot of great action, cool superhero-like moments, and great key character moments. Shotgun axe, an appropriate shotgun axe, that was pretty cool. It's still kind of weird that he doesn't really use the axe too much because this is a PG-rated show. But beyond that, the majority of it was great up until the end. Hopefully, the beginning of Season 4 will atone for that sin. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of S.H.I.E.L.D's Season 3 finale. What do you expect to come out of Season 4 when it returns? And do you, like me, have a few worries about what Marvel's television department is doing and what direction they're heading in with the cancellation of Agent Carter, the Most Wanted not going to series, this being pushed to 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock where most people are asleep on Tuesday night? And on top of that, them just not doing, just focusing more so on the Netflix side of things instead of rather network television. I am a little worried for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Here's to hoping they're not running out of steam. So I'll see you guys in September with the return of S.H.I.E.L.D. But until then, hopefully we got some good things coming from Marvel on the movie side, on the television side, and my Tuesday nights will now be filled with Daredevil Season 2. See you guys later. Take care.